What's going, guys? Aarava here. Welcome back to the Pitlane podcast, episode number 14 today, obviously for the Monaco Grand Prix. Joined by your hosts, usual, myself, Aarav, Callum, and Tom. And what a bit of a hectic race. Actually, quite more hectic than usual Monaco Grand Prix, really. Obviously, the rain helped out a lot. So if you haven't watched the race yet, here's your little warning. So these are the results. Lewis Hamilton ended up in first place, Daniel Ricciardo second place, and a surprising third place from Sergio Perez. So, guys, what did you just make of the top runners for that race?
Well, it's a change for Monaco, because the past couple of years, obviously that's the first wet race since 2008, and it has spiced it up a little bit. It spiced up the fact that we did have to start, although it was a safety car start, it was a very interesting start of the Grand Prix. We had cars making mistakes, even Jolyon Palmer making that huge mistake on the opening, the opening proper racing lap, but it was just a nice change, and it really did fit into the rest of the season, where every other race has been pretty good so far, I think.
Yeah, no, I think in general, like, this season so far, it's been a real treat in terms of, like, just every single race has had something, you know, like, that. Maybe not every single race has been an absolute banger, but every single race has had something to really, you know, get excited about and talk about. And yeah, the rain really did help. Obviously, it was very, very manic. I don't think we'll be able to go through everything that happened in that race, really, because I think all three of us don't really fully know what everything happened, because there's so much going on. But yeah, for sure, somehow Perez came through in third place. I think we talked about that just before we started recording, with Tom just being like, you know, we don't really know where he came from, because you know, in the middle of the race, it looked like it was Hülkenberg right behind Vettel in the Inters period, and then just came out of nowhere. Stuck in third. Yeah. Really thought he would actually challenge maybe Ricciardo, but just obviously the super softs and ultra softs went really surprisingly long. I almost feel like Monaco has to have like ultra softs to actually have some tyre wear.
Yeah, it was an insane race. Like, I do want to say for a start, it was good for a change that when they actually said rain expected, there was actually rain for a change. Because there's so many times where they say, oh, we got rain on Sunday, and then the rain never comes. It comes literally as the race finishes. So for once, we actually had rain. And then also, a second point is Pirelli should terminate the production of full wet tyres, because they are not necessary in Formula 1 anymore. Because intermediates are the tyres, aka the new full wet, that drivers use in Formula 1, because, well...
Yeah, me and Cal both called it. We're both saying on Twitter, in before, they go on intermediates straight after the safety car comes in.
Kevin Magnussen comes straight in for intermediates. And the thing is, some people may have an argument that the wet tyres that like Hamilton used until the dry period, and you've got a point. But it got to the point where it really didn't matter what tyre you were on, because it was that slippery that they just couldn't generate any grip for the tyres. But they may as well have just been on intermediates, just because they would have been a little bit fresher. But I'm not really sure about that. But I think we was all quite disappointed that it was a safety car start. Although I think I can see why they did do a safety car start, that it didn't need to be out for that long. I think it was out for 7 laps, and I think it only really needed to be out for 3 or 4.
Yeah, 3. I was going to say 3.
Properly, because the visibility seemed quite good, and it just seemed to be the slippiness, which Jolyon Palmer did prove. Yes. Going along the start-finish straight and going straight off into the wall over that zebra crossing.
I mean, he's also just a fake Maldonado, so that will contribute to it. So
exactly. Same team, same car, technically. So
so getting back to like the race winners, Hamilton, or race winner Hamilton, and Ricciardo in second place. Obviously, for me, I said it on Twitter, and I think you can kind of see it, unless you're if you're just being blind to it. Really, that should have been really Ricciardo's race to win. It was really just one moment, and that was Red Bull. We've learned after the race, it was Red Bull who called Ricciardo in. It wasn't Ricciardo's late call. Red Bull called him in, and they weren't ready. Simply calling it a lack of communication from the top of the kind of Monaco pit box to the bottom. Just a shambles. Like, Red Bull gives you wings, they don't give you tyres. That one moment, that was it. That was it, because obviously he came out, Hamilton streaked past him, and that was it to the end. It was just, I'm so gutted for him, because Ricciardo, for the first time in a while, hasn't had a smile on his face at all.
Yeah.
It was one of them ones, It was one of them ones where you look at it, and you just think, okay, Hamilton's had his fair share of bad luck, but that was one race where you could see Daniel Ricciardo was on it all weekend, every single practice session.
Yeah.
And you genuinely thought this was his to lose. And it was just one really bad call from the team. And I will say another thing. How many virtual safety cars did we have at that race?
Oh, about
a lot.
5.
Yeah. We also had probably the shortest virtual safety car.
There's a lot of crashes. Yeah, we did with the little plastic bag, whatever that was.
Yeah, it was like 7 seconds or something.
No, it was very interesting. I think it was a very good battle between Ricciardo and Hamilton.
Yeah.
I thought Hamilton defended well when he needed to.
Yeah.
Ricciardo pushed when he needed to. Both drivers were pushing each other to the limit. I think it pushed Mercedes more to the limit with how bad they were at trying to get their tyres switched on. Because you could see that Ricciardo was all over them, and they did have that incident where Hamilton missed a chicane, because I think he defended coming out of the tunnel, and he put a wheel on the wet stuff, and he could not get the thing slowed down. Had to cut the corner, more wet stuff on the tyres, and then there was that slight incident where Ricciardo thought he was kind of get blocked off, but it wasn't. It was
a racing incident. I can see why Ricciardo's mad.
There was room. Ricciardo was alongside, but the only reason there was an issue there is because the racing line isn't directly against the barrier. It's kind of in the middle of the track, and Ricciardo had half of his car. I thought that was incredible car control, though, to save his car 90-degree angle and just drive his hand up in the air,
flipping the bird.
Yeah, I was going to say he was like, it was one of them ones, and he's just casually like, oi. Meanwhile, just quickly switch the ball like this and get it saved, and he's like, oh.
So that car could have easily snapped off into the wall, and that would have been his race over, and he really would have ruined that then.
Yeah.
The fact that he had his hand up in the air, like, I wish I put both hands on the steering wheel.
Yeah.
But I thought that was very clever from a Ricciardo.
As much as it was a very crushing moment, that was probably the pivotal moment in the race, Ricciardo's pit stop. Hamilton did really do a brilliant race in terms of also just taking those wet tyres on. I really found it very I was in awe a little bit at that. There was a point in the race where the track looked so dry, and you just saw casually Hamilton on wet tyres, Ricciardo on inters, just going round like. It just looks so
pedestrian
odd.
as well.
It just looks so odd.
When we had the onboard of Hamilton, he was going so slowly. Yeah. It's like, is this the race leader's pace? Like, what are they at the back?
It was quite staggering, though. You could see, as soon as Ricciardo got to the back of him, though, Hamilton upped his pace. So you could say Hamilton really wasn't trying to overheat his tyres, because he knew Ricciardo was going to come eventually.
Yeah.
So he was more waiting for it, because you could see, as soon as Ricciardo caught him, Hamilton really had about a second on him all the time.
Yeah, he
had
the measure.
Ricciardo never really had a go at him. So, and you can see on the lap times when they were showing him at the bottom of the screen, Hamilton was doing 23s, 22s, and then he just dropped straight to 21s, mid 21s or 21s, but Ricciardo caught up to him. So I think Hamilton had it relatively under control, but the whole going from wet to dry definitely seemed a bit of a sort of thing you see in the Codemasters game in terms of a strategy like that.
Carrying the wet tyres, although it looked like they should have pit like 10 laps ago.
It's like what you said, Carl, at the start of the podcast. I did say scrap the wet tyres. Obviously, Hamilton did make them work, but at the end of the day, that wouldn't have happened if it was any other track. So,
yeah.
Obviously, you've got to take more into account.
There was like two pivotal moments, really, and I think, honestly, because now you say that Red Bull called Ricciardo in, like, it wasn't Ricciardo's call to go in. I honestly think that was a lack of communication because they didn't know what slicks to put on. That's the problem with these new tyre rules. They've got three to pick from. Choices. And what Force India proved is the softs were equally as good as the super softs and even the ultra softs as well.
Yeah, at the start.
So it's like you've got that range, and then it's like, okay, so what tyres did they put on? And I'm guessing there was like, oh no, we'll put super softs on, and then right at the last minute, it was like maybe go ultras, and then they just couldn't make their mind up, and by that point,
well,
you've already got a car sitting there. It reminded me of Mark Webber in 2011. Was it 2011 when he got screwed over because he was
2012 as well.
No tyres.
The thing is, it wasn't even that. I think it's more of a case of they're debating it, but meanwhile the pit crew just sat there like, oh yeah, the race is going well. Yep, it's going well. Oh wait, Ricciardo just turned up. Shit, haven't got any orders. Quick, get tyres.
It was so painful watching that car just sat there, no tyre. Like literally, the pit crew took the tyres off and were like, well. The other half of our team are not here.
Well, now what?
But I tell you what, though, you could see, though, Ricciardo almost got him, even though they had that horrible pit stop. It goes to show how good his in-lap was, because it was really close, like when Hamilton came
that
off
also
the line.
proved, I think, Hamilton pit on the wrong lap. He actually did pit. I think he pit. Well, it was very awkward for Hamilton because his tyres were going off, but he should have needed to have stopped out a little bit longer in order to not lose so much. On the outlap, on the slicks. But just because Hamilton did cut the corner, and some people pointed towards a penalty, but no one got a penalty for cutting corners, so I don't know whether people have pulled that out of their arsehole. But it was just a pivotal moment in that point, because it's just like, it was so close anyway. So Ricciardo would have absolutely smashed him.
Yep. Well,
so that proves how on point Ricciardo was all weekend.
Well, Brundle did say, because of the rain, the low track temperature, even if Hamilton did go for that, what he did do anyway, a nice warm intermediate tyre in its perfect range of working was going to be more effective anyway. So it's just a case of getting the pit stop right. But you could see, I think it also coincides with Mercedes struggling to get their tyres up to temperature and get them up to full whack quickly enough. And they definitely needed quite a few laps to really get them in the zone. Whereas Ricciardo, you can see, it's like every single virtual safety car, he was on it straight away. Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Ricciardo actually, that super soft he was on, I think it was a scrub set. I think it was his Q2 set.
It was a scrub set, yeah.
Because on the little thing, they show what tyre he's on.
Yeah,
the empty super soft.
Yeah, it was clear, sorry.
That really helped with him because you could see, especially when he first went to the super softs, how he was right on the back of Hamilton straight away, and Hamilton couldn't get the ultra softs turned on. But I think also that the problem with the Red Bull was, like Brundle said in the race, no one knows what the ultra soft was like in race trim. No one knew how long it was going to go, and it was such a risky.
What was it? 40 something laps.
Yeah,
something
it was.
It must have been getting to 50
crazy,
by the end of that.
Mercedes definitely have had a bit of luck with this because I think it was Australia, wasn't it, where they went into the mediums without really knowing, and they just rolled the dice, and they didn't think they were going to get to the end, but they got to the end as well at Australia on the mediums. So this goes to show sometimes you got a chance of luck, and Mercedes have done it really well.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing with these tyres. It's just like, a lot of people point to the fact that what is this ultra soft? It can go over half distance, but I thought it was a crazy race as well because do you know when it got onto the slicks, it felt like it was getting to the end of the race. It was not even half distance.
Yeah, there's 50 laps to go.
There was so much action, so many crashes, so many just problems and safety. Well, I thought the virtual safety car proved its worth at the Monaco.
At a track like Monaco, it works so well because it
is really good.
It slows them down enough where the marshals can just get out there in a snap, get anything out. Like the car, like what was it? I think it was which car was it? I think you commented it on Twitter, Cal. Like there was one
it was
incident.
when the Saubers. It was when the Saubers came together,
or something like that, and they got the car out like super quick. I think it was Verstappen. Oh, they got the car out really quick, and it was just impressive.
And then I think I also commented on when both Saubers crashed into each other and there was debris all at Rascas.
Yeah.
It was gone in like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
It was like, Jesus Christ, they got rid of that quickly.
Yeah, I was hoping when Verstappen crashed, they did bring out a proper safety car because that would have really made it tasty then when everyone was on the dryers and the pack got really, really close up. It would have been interesting to see how it would have panned out, especially because of obviously Perez and Vettel, see what they could have done maybe on the soft. But I definitely agree. The virtual safety car really was. You could definitely see how good it is in this race today, especially for those short periods.
Finally proved
Problem is though, the marshals are not very good anywhere else except for Monaco.
British Grand Prix, they're always all right, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean they sort of have to be like the marshals at Monaco have to be like the most on the ball, like because it's such a tight circuit. But yeah, in terms of talking, we talked a little bit about Perez. And how surprising it was he came out. Obviously, the softs worked surprisingly really well at the start. I mean, towards the end, pretty much, I can't remember, some journalist tweeted out that pretty much the ultra softs equaled the super soft and that equaled the softs. Like, all three tyres converged on each other in terms of performance right at the end, which is a very weird thing to kind of see. And, like, it just shows the tyres this year are very odd. They're not the same as, like, any of the last years we've had. That never used to happen where they converge on each other so heavily towards the end of the stints. But yeah, Perez third place. He what was it? I think he commemorated it to Vijay Mallya, who's in a bit of an issue right now with money and stuff like that. But great to see Perez. He's always that guy. Just comes out of nowhere, bags the podium, and always again classic Perez takes his tyres, just does some other strategy compared to the top runners and makes it work.
Yeah, well, that's Force India, though, because Force India always like to do a different strategy, and sometimes it doesn't work. Like, sometimes they do mess it up, but then you got to tip your hat to them, to be honest.
Like I said, they got it perfect. Like we said before the podcast, when Ferrari pit Vettel and he came out behind Massa, the time he gained their Perez, that was it. That was the crucial decision because they saw the gap. They went for it because I think that exact same lap when Perez pit, Massa pit as well. So they literally got it perfect.
Yeah, well
so
calculated.
Obviously when Perez came out, obviously stroke luck was Massa pitting after, but Perez pit in and he just came out ahead of Vettel and he just stayed ahead of him the rest of the race. And then obviously he got the tyre strategy perfect. So very, very clever from Force India. Definitely got a knack of doing that a couple of times. They've been there before.
Yeah, speciality really. So that's the top three. So the sort of little round up the top three. Hamilton, really good drive, keeping it, his wet tyres really in check. That was very, very impressive. And obviously then trying to heat up those tyres and just hang it on to the end. He did definitely have the pace over Ricciardo towards the end of the race. But I also feel like Ricciardo maybe at that point had given up because of how distraught the pit stop went. And I honestly think that would have been his race had it not been for the pit stop. But you can't fault Hamilton's race today. Perez, amazing job out of nowhere. Vettel, unfortunate as Tom said, to be caught up by Massa. He could have maybe been up there for that podium had it not been for that. But also at the same time, Ferrari just very annoyingly just nowhere really. They sort of had inklings. We maybe thought, maybe in the race it could really pan out for them. But obviously the few mistakes. Well, obviously Kimi was out of the race early on, and then just that mistake that Ferrari didn't calculate it correct.
Kimmy, come on.
Kimmy.
That was such a stupid... I know it's very easy to, slippery conditions, yes, but into the slowest corner on the
He wanted
circuit.
to scrape water off the track. He was doing everyone a favour, all right?
Well, he didn't do much of a favour spreading debris everywhere. Actually, do you know, a quick word on Kimmy? Do you know how everyone said that he pulled off? I don't think he could do much about it. Because, as he went down the hill, going into the Nouveau chicane, he couldn't. One, he couldn't slow the car down, and two, he couldn't go left.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's been sensible. He didn't. A lot of people just put their foot through it, and they just floor it so that the front wing goes under the car, and all the debris just shoots off everywhere. I think Kimi sort of sensible about it. And thought, you know what? I'm not going to break the front wing and shed all debris through the tunnel, which could be a massive pain in the arse for everyone else. And he just decided, you know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to chill out. And I'm just going to park up the car because I can't turn right anyway. I think he did the sensible thing there.
Didn't he get a slap on the wrist as well? Like, not even the regulations. It was like sporting code.
Conduct. It's because the FI...
Because he went into the tunnel.
Yeah, because the FI felt that he should have just stopped. But the thing is, like you said, he couldn't turn left. That's why he kind of nearly crashed Grosjean out. Because he couldn't turn left. So I don't think... I think he probably just thought probably safer to go down that huge runoff after the tunnel then try and park myself right in the middle and try and have the marshals pull me out on the left where, you saw like Senna crash. So I just, it's a slap on the wrist. Hopefully, that's just going to be probably, the most he'll get is probably a reprimand. But I don't even think that's going to happen. Yeah. I think it'll just be a slap on the wrist because he couldn't really do much. But yeah, it was a very weird, odd crash at the hairpin. But
Massa's save as well. Do you know how you almost crashed into the back?
Nearly tapped in.
That was madness.
I do want to say,
like sprint mode.
Yeah. Maybe I'm biased. I have a different view, but I did think Vettel had the best pace out of the top four up until literally the last 10 laps, and Hamilton switched on the ultra soft magically after 30 laps. But I think Vettel was good enough, but not fast enough. I think if you'd put Vettel on the ultra soft, he could have done way more damage. I just think that Force India really worked really well with the soft tyre.
Is Vettel becoming a little bit... I don't know, but I
think he's just pissed off, same as Ricciardo.
I think he's losing his mind a little bit. Like after qualifying yesterday, he was very annoyed. He was almost like an Alonso-esque thing going, oh, the cars has got worse, and getting really annoyed, and then being crashed out by Kvyat at Russia, and just having these little issues, and then to get stuck behind certain cars.
I think it's just a frustration of there's so much promise at the beginning of the season, and now you see where it is. It's like, where's it gone?
Did you two see the interview that he did with Will Buxton?
No, I haven't catched it.
He enabled Kimi mode.
I was going to say, he's like full on Kimi, yeah.
He literally just one word answers, and he was like, oh, finally, you give me a good question.
And you can see now,
mainly
Vettel, but Kimi doesn't talk. When Vettel gets interviewed, now you can see, when they say Red Bull are the team that are ahead of Ferrari now, you can see it irks him.
Yeah.
Visually, and he's frustrated, and he says, and he sits there for a second and thinks, he just doesn't say nothing, and then he says, "No, I think we're still the best team. I think we're still ahead."
Well, he's always still adamant that they're faster than Red Bull, but the past two races they've just been messed over.
Well, the thing is, even at the beginning of the season, with Ferrari's pace in the first race, Red Bull still had the best chassis. It was just the engine wasn't there, and now the engine's finally catching up to their chassis. So it's now proving through that Red Bull still are probably the kings of chassis in terms of F1. So yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the interviews, but very, very interesting to actually hear that. So I'm quite surprised actually in a way that he's getting that annoyed.
I don't know. I've just noticed that Vettel's become a little bit frustrated.
Yeah, just the undertones.
I think when he came to Ferrari, I think he was kind of expecting to be a bit more on the money straight away. But I think
he's
already going through some teething problems at the minute.
It's like Australia was theirs to lose. Bahrain, he didn't even start the race.
Yeah.
Then Sochi happened.
Russia.
I think, to be fair, he's had a bit of rotten luck this season, but I think Ferrari, Ferrari still haven't had like a problemless race. Today, Kimi had a problem.
Mercedes.
Yeah. It's just, yeah. Oh no, but at least one of the cars has had a problemless.
Yeah, that's
this
true.
year almost for me, like Ferrari's almost like back like 2013-ish, but like obviously they're a bit better than they were relative to everyone else.
Better than 2014. But then, like, yeah, I see
it's
what
like
you mean.
2013. Like they're there.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, Alonso won Spain in 2013, so like they're there. But like it's just like the same sort of frustration like from 2013. They just can't seem to get everything together every single time for race weekends. So yeah, just big frustrations there. So let's move slowly down the order. So we got the top 4 there. So P5, very surprising and awesome stuff from Fernando Alonso to get 5th place. I am sure he'll be very, very happy with that, to finish ahead of Mercedes as well. Obviously, that Mercedes was Rosberg with some brake issues we'll get to later, but Alonso, fantastic call with the strategy. I think, Brundle mentioned that it was him pitting a little bit later than Button that really sealed him getting the 5th place, and that Button really kind of him and his strategy team kind of shot themselves in the foot, probably pitting a little bit too early onto the slick tyres. So Alonso's him in his garage calling it right, 5th place there, managing to stay ahead of Rosberg, even though Rosberg tried a lunge, then he had to give it back. So fair play. It wasn't just like Alonso got gifted it. Yeah. So amazing stuff from McLaren to get more awesome points, and to be honest, 5th place, that is. That is a good position.
I have to read it out, and I'll say it again. Ever since Alonso's come back from the injury, he's looked really on form. Ever since Herbert said he should retire, I think Alonso should run up to him in the FIFA celebration where he just runs up to him like this in front of the camera and just shut up.
Yeah.
Alonso really, I think not just to Herbert, I think he's improved to me as well, that he can still cut it easily.
Well, we've been saying this in all the podcasts, haven't we? We've been saying wait till Monaco, because we might see a surprise result. Look at that. Both McLaren Hondas in the points, and decent points as well. It's not just 9th and 10th. Yeah. It's 5th place.
I will
ahead
say,
of a Mercedes with problems.
I think if it had been a dry race, they wouldn't have been nowhere near that. I think
that's
McLaren...
the thing. We was always waiting for some spice. Because that's what Alonso was. Alonso was hoping for snow. If you saw that, he was like, oh, I don't
even
care.
Pre-race,
anything to spice
Brundle asked him how it was. He was like, it's like ice, but he was smiling about it, like it's going to be a good time.
That's what he wanted.
But no, my point is more just, if you look at last year, I was expecting a bit more progression. They weren't really. They were always like 11th or 12th this weekend. They were always there. There wasn't really. I was expecting to be like the 4th best team behind the top 3. Better than Williams.
To be fair, Alonso did get into Q3.
True, but
they're slowly getting there.
The Toro Rossos were good all weekend, and they just dropped off in the race massively with Kvyat having his problem. But
Kvyat with issues, and
they're slowly getting there. I really, honestly, I obviously being a Button fan, and inadvertently a McLaren fan, I would have hoped that they made more progress. But I honestly think also I'm very happy with the progress they made so far. Like it looks like they genuinely are stepping up slowly, improving the car, and obviously now 2 in a row now, Q3. From Alonso, so they're getting there. It's promising.
And double 5th points place in a row, isn't it?
Yeah,
So just fantastic stuff. And then surprisingly, the next person, Nico Hülkenberg, snatching 6th place on the line, pretty much. From Rosberg.
Honestly, that last lap, when they were showing everything, I was screaming at my screen like, show Rosberg and Hülkenberg, because they showed like a glimpse of Alonso, and you can see them in the background, they're so close to each other. And I was like, show us this, there's still 3/4 of a lap to go, show it. Yeah. And they just show Alonso miss the chicane while it starts to rain. And I'm like, oh, show us the battle. Yeah. And then you see Alonso cross the line, and eventually it's, Hülkenberg just passed Rosberg. Missed it. Great.
Even the graphic got it wrong. The graphic still said Rosberg.
Yeah, the graphic got it wrong.
I still obviously we started recording the podcast pretty much after the podium, so at this point obviously you guys might know what happened to Rosberg right at the end, but we don't know. But he had some sort of issue because he was going very slowly in that last sector, and obviously all race long we were told and confirmed by Mercedes that he did have a brake issue, so that was a big reason why he was going so slow at the beginning. And probably I at the time really was like, why on earth is he allowed Hamilton to go straight through so quickly after he's been asked? But now it makes sense. It makes sense that he had such a big issue with the brakes that there really wasn't any point of trying to say no to not letting him through.
It's weird that they didn't actually... I'm not sure when they realised that they got... Because I put out a tweet about Rosberg, which I did get quite wrong, because I said that Rosberg was performing quite poorly, and kind of linked that to how he is as a World Championship contender. Obviously, I did get that wrong because we didn't... But obviously
at the time we didn't know the brake issues.
I didn't know that. I deleted the tweet afterwards. But it's very weird that we didn't find that out directly through Sky Sports or the FIA or anything like that through radios. We had to find that out externally, like through Twitter or something. So it's very surprising because normally about Hamilton, we know it instantly. So it's almost like bias for the FOM. So they're almost as bad as bloody Sky Sports sometimes. Because I'm not sure if there was any radio communication. Like obviously, I'm not sure about that, but I thought it was quite interesting that we didn't.
Yeah, I mean, halfway through the race, Sky finally reported that they've got the issue fixed, or they think they've got it resolved, because it was like this part where Rosberg was starting to slowly maybe pick up a little pace right at the beginning, of the slick period. But yeah, it was a bit weird. Everyone was sort of in the blue about actually what was fully happening with him, but you could definitely tell something was wrong. It wasn't like, obviously a lot of people love to bag on Rosberg, but it wasn't going to be that bad that he was being lapped by the leaders just pure on pace. There was something a little bit wrong with there. So behind Rosberg, Carlos Sainz finishing in 8th place, Button 9th, and then Massa 10th. So we already kind of covered Button, a bit of an earlier call, didn't work out. Tom sort of mentioned Toro Rosso sort of just falling out of nowhere. Obviously, Kvyat had that pit lane limiter sort of thing, so he was out early. And Sainz, I really honestly didn't see much of him from the race apart from that awesome save.
Do you remember? Yeah, I was going to say that awesome
that was
save
the one thing.
Pool. When the camera literally panned on him, like it went onto him, and you could see him through swimming pool just like wiggling.
Amazing
like
save.
And did you actually see behind? I think it was Hulkenberg that was chasing him down, or it might have been Perez. I'm not sure. Yeah. But he almost had a wiggle as well.
Awesome.
It's like there was like synchronised wiggling through bloody
that
swimming
for me
pool.
was like, that is Monaco. Just being able to save it there, high speed off the swimming pool. That was just awesome.
That actually, do you know that part of the track? Do you know the new change that they've done to the swimming pool chicane? I don't know. I hate how they're comparing it to other laps, because obviously you can't compare it if they're cutting a corner, basically. I still like the fact that they've almost kept that speed up. It's made it a very, very... It already was quite fast.
It makes that entire section a little bit faster. Yeah.
And obviously Verstappen proved that it's quite costly if you turn in a bit too early.
I feel like it's a bit less challenging, but it's more satisfying to watch. If that's the right way to put it.
Well, that slow-mo where we had Hamilton and Ricciardo hugging the wall, and as they bounce over the curb, it is a very nice little spectacle to look at.
So Massa 10th place, so let's note that. So Williams... really nowhere. I'm sort of getting tired of just talking about how Williams are just nowhere.
That's the best it could have got.
It's pretty much a given. So I'm just, we're just going to skip over swiftly.
No one likes Williams.
Gutierrez 12th place for Haas, and Grosjean 13th. So again, obviously not really living up to the hype at the very beginning of the season. But I guess almost it's sort of like, it was sort of, you get those things in like, when you play a game or something, it's like beginner's luck. It was almost like a bit of that, like a bit of rub of the green, and now maybe reality's settling in a little bit. But 12th and 13th, I honestly don't think that's too bad for a brand new team in F1. I mean,
that is third to last and fourth to last.
Oh yeah, in the grand scheme of things.
I will say though, this weekend,
I don't really have an opinion on it.
Gutierrez has really performed. I thought he was faster than Grosjean on the weekend.
It's good.
He set the fastest lap of the race a couple of times. Gutierrez, to be fair to Haas, Grosjean lose 20 seconds when Raikkonen cut him off at the one before Portier, and then you had Gutierrez who parked at Raskas at the car park. So they didn't have the best race. They both had a bit of time wasting problems going on there. And you see, I think it was Grosjean who was stuck behind Verline for 40 laps, wasn't he? He was stuck behind him all the time, and you can see the leaders always coming through. And but Verline got the ignore blue flags because of it, because he's trying to keep I think Grosjean behind him that badly. And he kept him behind for ages. I think that's why Gutierrez finished so far ahead of his teammate.
Yeah, I think Verline tried to copy tried to do a Hamilton and try and stick on the wets until they went to the slicks. But a car that bad, you can't really.
Yeah, they did do it.
You've got to be on the right tyre. That proves that the Mercedes is still one of the best cars on the grid, that it can carry a set of tyres that far and still be as fast as the rest of the field. Whereas a lower down team, they tried it. They're like, nope, not trying that again.
I mean, it partly worked. I mean, he was 13th and he stayed there for the whole race.
Yeah, but he was a huge train.
His problem was, I think, they run as the ultra softs, and we know Manor aren't exactly good in their tyres. So obviously he couldn't do a Hamilton and drag it out 45 laps. Yeah. So I think that's probably what shot them in the foot. But
that's pretty much where it ends, because then we've got Verline in 14th. And Harry Anto 15th, and that's where it ends. So the retirements were the two Sauber drivers.
To the retirees who made us laugh.
Sauber first, please. Sauber first. Yeah, we're going
Ericsson, Nasser.
What a pair of plonkers.
Jesus Christ.
What a pair of dipsticks, honestly.
the melt. I tweeted that they just melts,
I was
honestly.
like, they're crumbling. Sauber crumbles.
Like, seriously. Like, I know there was this whole thing that Sky tried to look into about the team radio, going, was there something to say that the radio wasn't working, or was that just a sarcastic comment to say he's not going to let me through? And all this stuff, but at the end of the day, it was Ericsson that tried to
launched one down the inside.
And that was, he tried to do a Bianchi of 2014, Bianchi proved how to do it, and...
To quote Jonathan Ledger, there's been all sorts of problems there. So
there was a problem. It just makes me laugh because it's two cars fighting over 13th position.
In the same team.
And what was even more better was the fact that, do you know how they retired one car, Naz's car, because he had smoke in the car? Yeah. It was just like, Ericsson, you may as well just come back in. What's the point?
And they went straight...
Sit on these chairs that we've got here.
Non-existent chairs.
I was going to say...
went straight up into the pen. Like, you could see the replay was like, I think he was like the boss person, or like someone higher up, started immediately shouting at Naz or something, and then he was like, calm down, let's go upstairs and talk. And then straight away, as soon as Ericsson retired, he was like straight up there, back up to the principal. It was just like, it was also the impact. I love the impact of the Sauber, because like, what was it? NASA swung round and smashed Ericsson's front wing off like so brilliantly.
They both smashed into each other's
front wing. It was
one
of, you know, like, I was just picturing, you know, like, you could do like a series of memes out of it, but it was like, if you're one of the pit mechanics and you're sitting on the floor thinking, oh crap, that's another race where we're going to be sitting on the floor now, because there's no money for chairs, so we've got to repair the cars. Damn it.
Absolute
crumbles.
Right. And then Verstappen next.
Yeah, just that was a bit of a bad mistake.
3 crashes all weekend.
I think honestly, it's just that thing. Like, you need to get in the rhythm of Monaco, and if you're not in it, you're just not in it. And
I think he had a reality check this weekend. I think I was talking to you about this, like when he won at Spain.
Yeah.
This weekend, Ricciardo was so good.
Yeah.
And I think he tried too hard.
Incredible.
And I think he's been brought back down to earth a bit by crashing in qualifying and in the race. So, I think that's just a reality check for Max, really.
Yeah. Moving on down.
It's hard to really say.
We've got
much about it, to be honest.
Well, we're pretty much finished there. So we got Kvyat obviously had that problem. Magnussen
very
and
unlucky,
Palmer,
Kvyat.
both Renaults crashing. Very poor day for them.
I think Magnussen ran out front wings. Kvyat obviously. Just problems.
Well, pit limit.
It was Kvyat who did a Ericsson-ish on Magnussen Raskas again, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, we did.
So many people tried to do the Bianchi, and it just didn't work. Yeah,
there's only one man that could have done that.
Yeah, exactly.
Bianchi.
It's like I love Magnussen's reaction on the radio. You know, when Kvyat did that, and he was like, "What the fuck has he just done?" But it was such a cool monotone voice. You know, like that sort of like Kimi style voice.
That's Kevin Magnussen though.
Oh, was it? What the fuck did he just do?
Yeah,
you can just imagine him sitting there with a really like.
Yeah, I love that time. It's just like sitting there, just slowly turn the head like, what the fuck was that?
This guy.
So we're sort of all the way through the grid, so that's pretty much the end of it. So I think we'll wrap this up. So very hectic Monaco Grand Prix, a very enjoyable one, you know, compared to other Monaco Grand Prix we've had. And just for me, I'm very, very upset for Ricciardo. But you can't also take too much away from Hamilton, because he did do a very solid race, did really nothing wrong that much. It was really just teams that did it wrong, which was Red Bull.
Who would you say driver of the day from those 3?
Because
there's 3, I think.
It's tough.
There's 3.
It's a tough.
There's Hamilton, there's Alonso, and there's Perez.
I'm gonna say Alonso. I like Perez's podium, but it's just nice to see McLaren 5th place.
I think I'm going to go for Perez.
I'm going to go Alonso.
He was pushing so hard, and
I think I'm going to side with Tom's call, Alonso, because Perez was really impressive for Perez, but it's also something that we've seen before, and he's very capable of. Alonso, I think for me, was more of a surprise, like especially just to be, even though it was a limping Mercedes, to still be ahead of one. Because it wasn't Rosberg didn't have any engine problems, it was the braking, so he still kept him behind, and just to actually make that strategy call was really good for me. But Perez also,
it's good for F1 as well, that every single race that we've had, it's been hard to decide who's the outstanding. Like, okay, you'd say maybe Verstappen was kind of an outright one, Bahrain, maybe Van Dorn, but there was still always other people that really do challenge that.
I disagree, to be honest. I mean, to be fair, Rio Haranto is always the driver of the day.
Yeah, always. Now, I voted on Twitter. Kimi Räikkönen, he was so kind trying to scrape that water away. It's so kind of him. Just had to be. So anyway, guys, that's been the Pit Lane podcast number 14. If you have enjoyed it, smash that like button. Always awesome to see the support, guys. It's great to see that you guys are always sort of looking forward to it. We constantly get tweets during the week saying you're looking forward to the podcast. It's just awesome to actually read. You know, I don't know if you guys actually know how much that actually means to us to actually keep on seeing so much support for it. So thank you guys for that. Let us know what you thought of the race below, and just anything we discussed. If you have your own 2 cents about it. So if you're new around here, then do subscribe to this channel for the podcast of these two guys. What happened? Why are you?
Doesn't matter.
subscribe to this channel if you want to see the podcast to these two Muppets. If you want to see them laughing like that again. And okay, great one, Cal. And all the professionalism has been thrown out the window. So I'm just going to start drinking this Lucozade. Goodbye. We'll see you next time.